Welcome. Today we're plunging into something really practical, the psychology behind how we communicate and negotiate.
That's right. We're looking at some really fascinating material, drawing on insights from, behavioral science, negotiation experts, real practical stuff.
Exactly. Insights from people like, well, former FBI negotiators, psychologists. It feels like getting a superpower for conversations sometimes.
It really does. They offer these specific techniques, things you can actually use, aimed at helping you navigate those moments where you feel stuck or misunderstood.
Yeah, whether it's at work or, even at home. The mission today is to unpack these core ideas. Why do some conversations feel so difficult? Why do we have those I should have said that moments hours later? We want to pull out the tools from this material to help you feel more prepared.
Yeah, think of it less like just random tips and more like understanding the operating system of human connection when things get tense.
Right, training your communication instinct.
Exactly. It's about understanding the psychology to change the dynamic.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The material starts with something I think everyone gets. That feeling of being tongue-tied in the moment.
Oh, yeah.
Blindsided, can't quite get your thoughts out. And then, hours later, maybe in the shower, the perfect response just pops into your head. Why does that happen?
Well, this links directly to a big idea in psychology, something folks like Daniel Kahneman talk about. Our minds have these different speeds, basically.
Okay.
There's the slow, careful, logical part. That's the part that crafts those brilliant responses later.
Right.
But under pressure or when emotions are high, our fast system takes over. It's instinctive, emotional, great for dodging a ball, terrible for nuance.
So our brain hits the panic button and defaults to instinct. Logic just flies out the window.
Pretty much. Arguments quickly become about being right, not understanding. It's like our factor settings taking over.
That makes so much sense. It's frustrating. But the sources say you can actually, train yourself to handle this better.
Yeah, you can. They lay out several techniques, really frameworks, to consciously engage that slower, more analytical brain, even when the fast one is yelling.
Huh?
Methods to slow things down, gather more info, shift from just reacting to being more strategic.
So what's the first one?
One of the first ones they focus on is called mirroring, and it sounds, well, almost ridiculously simple.
Yeah?
You just repeat the last few words someone said, or maybe 1 to 3 keywords they use.
Let's repeat them like that.
It is simple, but deceptively powerful. Chris Voss, the former FBI guy, really emphasizes this. The magic isn't really what you repeat, it's that you do it. By echoing a few words, maybe with a slight upward tone, like a question,
Right.
you trigger something, often unconscious, in the other person. It creates this immediate sense of, okay, they heard me.
So it's less about the words themselves and more about the signal it sends, like a subconscious I'm listening signal.
Exactly. It can bypass their defensiveness. If someone's upset, they often feel unheard. Mirroring is like saying, yes, I hear you, without actually having to agree.
And that can de-escalate things, just hearing their own words back.
Often, yes. It makes them feel secure enough to maybe elaborate or just calm down a notch. It meets that basic need to feel understood.
That's fascinating. It's a passive technique having such an active effect. It keeps the conversation going without you having to push.
And it often prompts them to fill the silence you created by mirroring. They end up revealing more, naturally.
Okay, wow. So, mirroring. What's next? The sources get into something called tactical empathy, right? Which sounds intense.
It does, but it's a really interesting concept. And it's not about suddenly feeling all warm and fuzzy towards the other person, especially in a negotiation.
Right, that's important. It's tactical.
Exactly. It's about the intellectual work of identifying their emotions, their perspective, their motivations, understanding their reality as they see it.
Like a detective figuring out the situation.
Kind of, yeah. You're trying to get an accurate read, and then you verbalize that understanding.
Okay, so you put yourself in their shoes, figure out what it looks like from there, and then say it out loud.
Precisely. And the absolute gold standard, the thing you're aiming for, is getting them to say, that's right.
Not, you're right, but that's right. Why the difference?
You're right can feel like conceding, like agreement. But that's right is different. It's a confirmation. It means, yes, you have accurately understood my position or how I'm feeling. It's huge.
Okay. The sources had that great example about asking for a raise, didn't they?
Yeah, that really illustrates it. You can go in with all your data, show how great you are.
And still get a no sorry budget.
Right. Because you've only talked about your world, your logic. You haven't acknowledged their reality. The manager's dealing with budget pressures, maybe orders from above.
So tactical empathy means starting there.
Yes. You might say something like, "It seems like you're under a lot of pressure with these budget constraints right now," or "It looks like things are pretty tight compensation-wise across the board this year, is that right?"
And if they say that's right,
Boom. You've just shown you understand their world, you've built trust, they feel seen, and then they're much more open to hearing your perspective or request.
it shifts the whole dynamic before you even ask, from potential adversaries to collaborators trying to solve a problem.
That's exactly it. Getting that's right is almost like the key that unlocks the rest of the conversation. It should often be your first goal.
Wow. Okay, so that connects to the next technique, right? Labeling. It sounds similar.
It's very related, yes. Labeling is a specific way to verbalize that tactical empathy. It's about putting words to their feelings or their situation, but using very specific phrasing. Like starting with, "It seems like," "It sounds like," "It looks like."
Yeah.
The key is that it's tentative. You're not stating a fact.
You're not saying you are stressed.
Right, because that can make people defensive immediately. "No, I'm not."
Instead, you say, "It seems like you're feeling pretty stressed about this deadline."
Exactly. You're offering an observation gently. It invites them to confirm it. "Yeah, I am," or correct it. Well, not stressed, more like frustrated.
And either way, you get valuable information.
Absolutely. And because you use those softening phrases, it seems like you sound like you're trying to understand, working with them, not making accusations at them.
That makes sense. It lowers the stakes for them to respond honestly.
Precisely. It taps into that need to feel understood again. Labeling accurately can diffuse tension really quickly or uncover the real issue hiding beneath the surface.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. The sources also talk about something beyond the words themselves, your voice, the tone.
Oh, hugely important. Your tone, your cadence. It's not just style. It has a direct physiological impact on the listener.
Really? How so?
Well, the material references research, some discussed by people like Andrew Huberman, about how our auditory system processes different frequencies.
And a lower voice makes people calmer. Is that the idea?
That's what the research suggests, yeah. Lower frequencies can actually activate parts of the brain linked to calmness or safety. Think smooth downward inflection at the end of sentences.
As opposed to high-pitched or sharp.
Exactly. Those higher, sharper tones or speaking too quickly can trigger a sense of alarm or unease in the listener's brain. It activates that fast, defensive thinking.
Huh. There was that Japanese proverb mentioned, wasn't there?
Yeah, beautiful one. If you yell, they listen to your voice. If you speak softly, they listen to your words. It's about influence, not just volume. Using your voice strategically to create the right emotional atmosphere.
That's a powerful tool to have in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Consciously managing your voice to shape the conversation.
It really is. It works on that subconscious, instinctual level.
Now, something else that felt really counterintuitive was the discussion about the word no. We usually try to avoid it, right?
Yeah, no often feels like failure, like rejection. But the sources, particularly drawing on Voss again, argue it's incredibly powerful, strategically.
How so? For the person saying no.
Well, firstly, being comfortable saying no yourself is crucial. Instead of getting rushed into a yes you regret, saying no, or even just hold on, how am I supposed to do that, buys you time.
Time to think. To use that slow brain we talked about.
Exactly. It lets you pause, process, reframe, avoid mistakes. It's a way of taking control back for yourself.
Okay, that makes sense. But getting the other person to say no can also be strategic. That seems weird.
It does, but think about it. When someone says no, they feel like they're in control, right? They've asserted a boundary. It gives them what the sources call an illusion of control.
Okay.
But more importantly, getting a no can be a fantastic way to uncover hidden information, what Voss calls black swans.
The unknown unknowns, the real reasons behind their position that you have no idea about.
Precisely. So back to the raise example. Your boss says no. Instead of arguing, you pivot. You ask questions designed to get another no, but a clarifying one.
Like the source examples. Are you dissatisfied with my work? Or do you think my performance has been weak?
Exactly. You're almost hoping they say no to those. No, your performance isn't weak, or no, I'm happy with your work.
Ah, because that eliminates potential reasons.
Right. Each no chips away at the possibilities and pushes you closer to the real reason, the black swan. Maybe it's a company-wide freeze. Maybe there's an internal policy you didn't know about. That no isn't the end. It's a tool for discovery.
That completely reframes the word no. It's not a barrier, it's a signpost.
That's a great way to put it. It shifts your focus from fighting resistance to gathering intelligence.
Wow. Okay. And what about power words? The sources mentioned those too.
Yeah, they highlighted a couple of key concepts: time and fairness.
Time, like creating urgency.
Sometimes, yeah, carefully introducing a sense of a deadline or limited opportunity can prompt decisions, playing on loss aversion. But the real heavyweight seems to be fairness.
Fairness. That feels fundamental.
It is. Taps into a deep human need. The sources noted how often people use phrases like, "I just want what's fair," even if their demands seem anything but.
Right. It's like a magic word.
Because it resonates so strongly, framing your position in terms of fairness, appealing to that shared value, makes it much harder for someone to just dismiss. It gives your stance a kind of moral weight.
So, stating, we need to find a fair solution here, or my concern is about fairness, can be really effective.
Very effective. It anchors the discussion to a principle most people feel strongly about.
Okay, and finally, the sources talked about putting these pieces together, right? Combining techniques.
Yes, that's where the real skill comes in weaving them. They gave examples like combining labeling with someone's core values.
How would that work?
Say you sense someone is really driven by their reputation. You could use a label like, "It seems like maintaining your credibility is really, really important to you."
You're not accusing, just observing.
Exactly. And using "it seems like" makes it tentative. You're holding up a mirror to a value you perceive in them. It prompts them to agree, reinforcing that value in their own mind, and potentially making them consider if their current stance aligns with it.
Or that other example, if you know someone values honesty deeply, maybe because of past experiences.
You could say, "It seems like honesty and transparency mean a great deal to you, and, I feel the same way."
So you're labeling their value, showing empathy, and aligning yourself with it.
Precisely. It builds connection on a deeper level based on shared principles. The source highlights that as a really powerful combination: empathy plus shared values.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot to take in. We've gone from fast versus slow thinking to mirroring, tactical empathy, getting that's right, labeling, voice tone, the power of no, finding black swans, using fairness. It's quite a toolkit.
It really is. And the common thread, I think, is that communication isn't just logical debate. It's deeply psychological and emotional. These techniques give you ways to navigate that underwater part of the iceberg.
Right. It's about being more intentional, understanding the other person's reality, not just pushing your own agenda, moving beyond just reacting.
Exactly. Being prepared not just with what you want to say, but how you want to manage the interaction itself.
So for you listening, maybe the next time you anticipate a tricky conversation, you won't just plan your arguments.
Maybe you'll think, okay, what might they be feeling? Or how can I use my voice to create calm? Or what label might help me understand their perspective?
And here's maybe a final thought to chew on based on that "that's right" idea. If getting someone to confirm you understand their perspective is so powerful, maybe the most crucial thing in a disagreement isn't actually convincing them that you're right.
Getting them to agree that you truly understand them.
Exactly. What if that's the real key to unlocking progress? Lots to think about.